They're not sounding alarms, they're not issuing warnings, but they are making moves, fast, quiet, and irreversible. The richest people on Earth just triggered the final stage of the dollar collapse. They're not predicting it, they're preparing for it, and the system you're living in is being dismantled without your consent, one asset at a time. Let's pull back the curtain. For over 70 years, the US dollar has been the undisputed king of global finance. It's been the world's reserve currency, the foundation of trade, and the backbone of wealth. But that era is ending. Right now, dollar dominance has dropped to just under 58% of global reserves. That's the lowest level in modern history. A decade ago, it was nearly 70%. 2 decades ago, it was over 80%. The decline isn't slowing, it's accelerating. Behind the scenes, something massive is underway. The BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has officially moved forward with a gold-backed trade system. Not a theory, not a pilot, an active restructuring of global settlement mechanisms that bypass the dollar entirely. And this isn't a fringe movement. Over 40 countries have now expressed interest in joining BRICS or transacting on their new rails. That includes oil giants, that includes exporters, that includes America's former allies. But here's the kicker. Saudi Arabia officially ended the Petrodollar agreement in June 2024. That deal, born in the 1970s, was what kept global demand for the US dollar artificially high. As long as oil could only be bought in dollars, the dollar stayed in power. But now Saudi Arabia is accepting payment in yuan, rupees, and gold. That wasn't just a crack in the system, that was a fracture. And the rich? They didn't panic, they pivoted. Over the last 12 months, billionaires have been exiting fiat-heavy portfolios and reallocating aggressively. Their targets? Hard assets, gold, Bitcoin, and commodity-producing land. Foreign currencies backed by real production. They're not doing it loudly. There's no CNBC headline screaming billionaires fleeing the dollar. But if you track fund flows, if you watch ETF rebalancing, and if you follow elite real estate purchases abroad, the pattern is crystal clear. They're moving quietly because they don't want you to. In the first quarter of this year alone, central banks bought over 290 metric tons of gold, the fastest quarterly accumulation rate in more than 70 years. Not just China, not just Russia, Poland, Turkey, Singapore, and Brazil, they're all buying. And they're not just hoarding it, they're settling trades in it. Because when trust in currency disappears, gold becomes the default setting. Meanwhile, the dollar is facing a triple threat. First, inflation may have cooled from 2022 highs, but its damage is permanent. The purchasing power of the average U.S. household has been gutted. Food, rent, and energy are still far above pre-pandemic levels, and the Fed is trapped. Raise rates and you destroy credit markets. Cut rates and you unleash another inflation wave. Second, America's fiscal credibility is evaporating. With national debt now over $36.2 trillion and interest payments closing in on $900 billion a year, confidence in U.S. Treasury markets is eroding. Foreign buyers who once soaked up every new bond are walking away. And third, digital alternatives are exploding. We're not just talking about Bitcoin anymore. Private capital is moving into tokenized assets, programmable stablecoins, and cross-border CBDC experiments. Entire parallel systems are being built, and none of them rely on the dollar. This isn't a conspiracy, it's not a forecast, it's already happening. And the most powerful people in the world are quietly adjusting their exposure. Here is what they know that most Americans don't. The collapse of a currency doesn't look like a Hollywood explosion, it looks like erosion. It looks like your groceries getting more expensive. It looks like your savings losing value faster than your investments can keep up. It looks like nations no longer showing up to treasury auctions. It looks like quiet bilateral deals, signed in rubles, yuan, or dinars, with no press coverage at all. And eventually, it looks like a tipping point, a moment where confidence breaks, where foreign creditors no longer believe the U.S. can manage its debt, where domestic institutions begin hedging against their own currency. That moment is coming. You won't hear it on the evening news, but you'll feel it in your bank account. Now let's talk about what happens next. When a currency begins to collapse, elites don't run for the exits. They hedge, they fortify, they shift assets into stores of value that can't be printed, manipulated, or frozen. Right now, high net worth individuals are pouring into 3 categories. 1. Physical assets with global demand, energy, agriculture, and precious metals. 2. Digital stores of value. Bitcoin and hard-cap tokens stored in cold wallets beyond the reach of any central bank. 3. Strategic jurisdictional arbitrage. Second passports, foreign bank accounts, and private trusts outside of U.S. control. It's not a panic move. It's a positioning move. They know what's coming. They know the public won't react until it's too late. And they know that whoever controls the collateral survives the reset. Because make no mistake, this is a reset, not a temporary devaluation, a systemic reshuffle of global power, and it's moving faster than anyone expected. The IMF recently acknowledged that non-dollar trade volumes are now growing faster than dollar-based volumes. The BIS is testing protocols for multi-currency settlement layers, and for the first time ever, a majority of global gold flows are being settled outside of SWIFT. That's not just finance, that's the quiet formation of a new financial world. And the average investor still believes the dollar is untouchable. That belief is your biggest risk. Because faith in a system doesn't stop that system from collapsing. It just delays your reaction. So what should you do? Start by observing what the rich are actually doing, not what they say in interviews. They're not buying index funds. They're not holding 40% in cash. They're not waiting for Jerome Powell to fix it. They're owning scarce assets. They're building privacy. They're reducing dollar dependency at every level of their portfolio, and they're doing it quietly because every day you don't move is a day they gain more ground. This isn't fear-mongering, it's reality. Currency systems have lifespans. Reserve statuses expire. And history is crystal clear, no global empire has kept monetary supremacy forever. The question isn't whether the dollar falls, it's what replaces it and whether you'll still have leverage when it happens. You're not supposed to know this. Because if you did, you might act. And if millions acted at once, the illusion would shatter overnight. So now you know. The collapse has already begun. The moves have already been made, and the clock is ticking. If you want the truth, not the headlines, subscribe to WealthSignal. We show you the signals before they break the system. But here's what almost no one is talking about. The collapse of a reserve currency doesn't begin with a press conference. It begins with silence and ends with a reckoning. You might still be using dollars, but the power behind those dollars is evaporating. Every trade made in yuan, every ounce of gold exchanged for oil, is a vote against U.S. monetary control. And there's another layer. While the mainstream focuses on interest rates and CPI reports, elite institutions are building escape hatches, private exchanges, tokenized assets with off-chain custody, trust structures that allow billionaires to disappear assets from public ledgers entirely. This isn't random, it's calculated because when the system nears its expiration date, those closest to the center move first. They do it quietly before the crowd catches on. And by the time the public reacts, the doors are already locked from the inside. The collapse won't look like a crash, it'll look like a lockout. And you'll either be on the inside of the next system, or left out of it entirely. If you found this valuable, subscribe to WealthSignal. We show you what the elites are doing before it becomes obvious, and before it's too late.